Greetings, everybody. Happy Shark Week. As you may know, Shark Week's been going on for many, many years, and this is also the 50th anniversary of the movie Jaws. So today is the first in my series celebrating sharks. I do this every year, and we are going to observe and draw a shark. So thanks for joining me. I'd love to know in the comments if you've ever seen a shark before, or if you've ever had any close encounters, maybe what your favorite shark is, and if you've ever drawn one before. So, in case we haven't met, hi, I'm Christine Elder, and I'm a naturalist, environmental educator, and visual artist from Oregon, far from the ocean. But I know a little bit about sharks. I've been able to scuba dive and snorkel with them. I used to be terrified of them, but I learned all about them while scuba diving. I've seen nurse sharks in the Caribbean and blacktip reef sharks in the Mediterranean, and I've even sketched and scuba dived with hammerhead sharks in the Galapagos. So today we're going to sketch a shark and learn about some of its parts. We're going to start with a really easy side view today, but over the week, if you follow me, we'll get more challenging and we'll learn about other species of sharks. And so, and at the very end, I'll tell you a little bit more about some other programs I do. Now, later on, you can also download high-resolution images that I created for you guys of sharks so that you can observe them and practice sketching them more later on. Okay, so are you ready to watch me sketch? You may or may not have pencils and paper, but that's okay, even if you don't. I'd love to have you just observe and follow along, and you can draw in the replay if you want to. So I'm going to be using just some plain paper and a few different kinds of pencils. If you have drawing paper and pencils, you probably just have a graphite pencil, but I'm going to show you a few other fun techniques. And we're also going to talk about the basic anatomy of a shark. And here's a drawing I did of a tiger shark that we're going to look at today. And the more you know about the anatomy of something you're drawing, the faster you'll be able to draw it, which you might need to do if you're underwater swimming from a scary shark. No, we're trying to dispel all the myths about sharks being dangerous and terrifying. And so we do that by learning more about them. So we are going to move over to my table over here where I'm going to start my demonstration. Okie dokie. If I can only figure out which one to, no, wait a minute, solo layout. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to turn around over here. And so we are going to look at a few of the parts of the shark first so that we really understand. Now, this one's a great white shark, but in a few moments, we're going to be drawing this a little bit easier side view of the tiger shark. So what we see is most sharks are sort of a torpedo shape, so they go through the water really easily, although some of them are much wider than tall, like whale sharks and basking sharks. But most sharks are kind of like torpedo shaped. And most sharks are kind of a grayish at the top, and they're lighter at the bottom. That's called counter shading, and that helps them camouflage from their predators and their prey. So if there's somebody below them looking up, their white belly matches the lighter sky. Whereas if there's somebody looking down, their darker top matches the darker ocean. So that's called counter shading. And of course, some sharks have other kinds of colors and patterns, but mainly it's kind of like this. So the front of the shark, of course, that's the scariest part. They have a nostril and an eye and a mouth, of course, and really sharp teeth. And these interesting sensory organs called ampullae of Lorenzini, which helps them find their prey. And then some sharks also have a little dot here that I forgot to write down called a spiracle. And that's sort of like another gill that some sharks have. Now, speaking of gills, those are back here. Most sharks have 5 of them, and they're these parallel lines. And of course, the water will go in here and out here, and they will use the highly vascularized tissues in their gills to help extract oxygen. Because they're not like a dolphin, they don't come up to the top to breathe. They use their gills just like any other fish. And then speaking of interesting sensory organs like the ampullae of Lorenzini, they also have something called a lateral line. And I actually drew this a little darker than you might see it, but it's another sensory structure. Now, the rest of the shark is really filled with lots of different kinds of fins. And so those will vary depending on the species. Now, the pectoral fins are in the front. There's a pair of those, and those help them to steer. And then there are the dorsal fins. Sometimes there's just one, sometimes there's two, and those will vary in size as well. And they usually have a little loose part back here that's sort of a trailing edge that's not attached to the body. And those help to stabilize them so they don't roll this way or that way. And then there is the pelvic fin. There's a pair of those. And sometimes there are claspers if they're males to help them mate. And then there's one last fin, the anal fin. It's behind the anus where they go to the bathroom. And that's a tiny fin. And then their biggest fin, of course, is the caudal fin or tail. And that's where they really get the power to swim fast. And some sharks can swim really fast, whereas other sharks, like nurse sharks, are more quiet and down on the sand and don't swim much. So some sharks have kind of an equal tail that looks like a moon. And then other sharks, like the thresher shark, has a super long top tail that can be as long as the whole body. And then sharks often also have this little triangular notch here that looks like somebody cut with their tail with the scissors, but that's natural. Okay. And so now we can start sketching, and we are going to draw this one. Let me see. I'm trying to figure out, is the writing upside down here, or can you see it? No, I think it looks right. Yeah, that's right. It just looks flipped on my monitor, but I think you can read the writing. I hope so. You can comment and tell me because yeah, I think it is. I think you can see it. That's right. Yeah, you can see it. Okie dokie. So now here is the shark we're going to draw. Again, I said that this is, of course, Shark Week. And so we are celebrating sharks. And I will be doing some other workshops this week, depending on how popular they are. And be sure to tell me in the comments if you have a favorite shark that maybe we could draw. I have a few planned, but maybe we could draw certain ones. This one's the black-tip reef shark that I painted in watercolors. So yeah, we're going to do a few different ones, but we're going to start especially with this super easy side view. And you can also see that I've labeled some of the parts. So I'm going to take my snorkel mask off now. And yeah, so this is the tiger shark, and they're named for the tiger-like stripes that they have, which I'm not sure if you can see those here, but especially juveniles have those. And these guys are part of a bigger group called ground sharks. There are many species in that group, like hammerheads, blue sharks, lemon sharks, bull sharks. A lot of the more scary, fearsome reputationed sharks. And this one is actually second only to the great white for a number of attacks. But again, attacks are still rare, and sharks have a lot more to fear from us than we do from them because they're harvested every year by the millions. So sharks around the world are losing their numbers and possibly going extinct. So anyway, this is the tiger shark, named after those tiger stripes, especially seen in the juveniles. And these are globally found globally in all the oceans, mostly tropical to subtropical. So even in North America, the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, Africa, and Asia. Uh, and they often will be in shallower waters. And they have a really big diet. They have the widest menu of all sharks. They'll eat everything from crustaceans to sea snakes to seals and seabirds and squid and jellyfish and turtles, dolphins, manatees, and fish and whatever else is dying as well. And I read an interesting fact that they can avert their whole stomach to throw up garbage and turtle shells and then swallow it back in to get rid of junk. So, isn't that amazing? Hello, thanks for joining me today live, Joseph and Carolyn. So, yeah. And then these guys get pretty massive, 10 to 18 feet, up to 2,000 pounds. So they're one of the world's largest sharks behind the whale shark, the basking shark, and the great white shark. So they'd be pretty fearsome to see out in nature. But like I said, attacks are rare, and I heard they can be quite gentle. So yeah, like I said, I've had the pleasure of scuba diving with lots of sharks, and they're pretty mellow. They're just doing their own thing. So anyway, let's go ahead and start drawing. So even if you don't have a pencil or paper, I suggest you just keep watching because you can learn something just from the demonstration. And then you can get a pencil and paper later on if you want. And again, in the description of this YouTube video, in the description box below the video, you'll find a link to download a couple pages of high resolution images. So, yeah, okay. And later on, I'll tell you about how you can learn a lot more about sharks with me in my Nature Notebook Club. Okay, so anyway, we're going to start. And one way I start is by just taking a line kind of through the middle of the shark to kind of place my shark on the page. And so I'll just draw a line. And I'm going to draw a little bit darker than I would want you to, just so you can see it in the video. Let's see. Yeah, I think you can see that. So just drawing that line from the snout to the base of the tail. And then I'm going to draw the arches of the top and the bottom of the shark. And the top is more arched and the bottom's a little bit flatter. But anyway, so we're just gonna draw this arch. And again, sharks are quite torpedo shaped so that they can be really hydrodynamic and run through the water. Now, tiger sharks have a really broad, blunt snout. And that's really obvious in this painting that I did, where he's coming towards you a little bit, and you can see a little bit of the front of his snout. And so, yeah. So then, yeah, I got this arch. And then I want to get the bottom arch, kind of ignoring the mouth right now, just basically the bottom of the arch. And I could double check here how wide he is. Yeah, I got that pretty close. And I don't need to erase that middle line there because we're going to shade it pretty soon. Okay. Alrighty. So then let's do his mouth and his eye. You can't see it very well here, but again, you can see it a lot better here, but he's at a slightly different angle. But anyway, I can firm up that snout and bring it down here to open to the mouth. And then it's kind of his lip there. and coming down, sort of like that. And then you can't really see the nostril too well here, but you can see it here. But it would just be a little bit kind of like there. Maybe I'll erase a little bit of that line because that is lighter right there. So you might see a little bit of the nostril there. And then there's the eye, and that's going to be just kind of above the mouth. And different shark species have different sizes of eyes. There are some very deep water sharks that have really big eyes. And I can shadow that and leave a little bit of a highlight because we're going to pretend this guy is at the surface. All righty. And so, and then they actually also have a little bit of a ridge that we'll shadow later, kind of like that. And then they also have a spiracle that you're not going to be able to see because we're going to shadow it. But that's that second hole that is kind of a rudimentary gill. Okie dokie. So now let's go and finish the top here and add these two dorsal fins. So I will strengthen this line and decide where to put that dorsal fin. Pretty much about there. And kind of thinking about how tall that will be. Again, some species of sharks have much bigger fins than others, depending. And then there's that free part that's not attached. Kind of a flap. Flappy flap. Okay, I'm making sure I'm looking at the screen. Yeah, you can see that. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to add that second fin. And that one too is has an end that's free, kind of like that. And then we've got the tail. And so these guys have a little bit longer top part of the tail to the bottom. And so we're just going to kind of go up like this and out here towards the edge of the paper. And then it's got that little notch there. And then the second half coming down here and kind of like that. So that tail, as well as all the muscles in their body, is really what is making them go fast in the water. So it's really powering their forward movement. And yeah, okay, there we go. How's that look? Okay. So then let's add the pectoral fins. Now, this is a side view, so we don't see the other one. But if you looked at this drawing, you see that I kind of ghosted in the image of the other one, making it look like it's farther away. And indeed, with this huge shark, this fin might be 10 feet away from this one. So we did just want to make it really subtle. But here it's a complete just side view. So we're going to add that. And it starts, you can kind of take a plumb line down and see where it kind of is here and kind of an angle here. So it's kind of like that. Oh, we forgot to add the gills. We're going to have to add the gills. And then, yeah, kind of like that. So it attaches to the body up here. And then it's free right here and here. Kind of like that. And how are we there? Oh, I got them a little bit too long here. Maybe I think I got them. Yeah, that's what I did. I got that too far up the body. Let's just go like that. That's better. Okay. So now we got that. And we can erase the other line of the body. Okay. So again, they use the pectoral fins to stabilize themselves and help to swim. All righty. I think I got my head a little bit too fat, but again, I like people to focus on what they're learning when they're drawing and not necessarily how the drawing looks. So my guy might be a little bit too fat or too thin, but that's okay. I'm learning a lot about its anatomy as I draw it. All righty, so now we have the pair of pectoral fins. And so those are in front of the dorsals, behind the first and in front of the second. And I could even take a line here, and I see that it's kind of like this at an angle is where that one would start. Yeah. And you see one of them a little bit, and then you see the other one on top of it that's closer. And yeah, that other one is we'll may as well shade that there. So that's paired as well. And then if this were a male, it would have claspers to help it with mating, but it doesn't. So it just has this short free spot there. And then it goes back to the anal fin. And again, if you lined it up with where the dorsal is, it's kind of, yeah, kind of like that. And again, we're just adding another triangle. And it's got a little notch in it as well. That might be hard for you to see. And there's only one of those. So only the pectoral and pelvic fins are paired left and right, just like our left and right arms. Okay. All righty. So now we see that big beefy shark. Again, these guys can get up to 18 feet long and 2,000 pounds. And they're really beefy shark, like the bull shark. And so, yeah. Okay, we'll have this guy peeking in from this edge. And we can have this guy, the great white shark for fun, peeking in from that edge just to make it all look more interesting. Okay, and so now the fun part, we can start shading it. And so what you notice again in all three of these sharks is they're counter shaded. So they're going to be darker on top and lighter on the bottom. And that is a pigment. So their pigment is darker and then lighter on the bottom so that they can hide from their predators and prey better. And so the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use this nice pencil here. And I'm just going to start shading. And I don't have to be too perfect because I can always make things darker or lighter. But I'm going to just put a middle value there. And so if I got out my value scale that helps me, I'm going to just look here. Oh, Carolyn asked, what shark is this? This is the tiger shark. So I mentioned earlier, I was just reading about this shark. It's recently been placed in its own family. And it is related to hammerheads, blues, lemons, and bulls. And they're all over the world. And I just thought I'd start today with this somewhat easy shark because it's sort of like, he's not too fat, he's not too skinny, he's kind of right in the middle. So he's not big and fat like a basking shark, and he's not too skinny like a guitar fish. So anyway, I'm just going to take the side of my pencil and just roughly get some values in here. I don't have to be too perfect. I'm just going to get this in here. So this is a type of a charcoal drawing pencil. But whatever pencil you have, it doesn't matter, but I like these because they're pretty fast. Uh, yeah. Now, one thing we have to also notice later, we can't forget is, yeah, they do have sort of a ridge right here, and they also have a ridge here that kind of goes up their tail. It's the end of the the vertebral column, and then there's like a ridge, and that's it, like this keel that helps to stabilize them. Carolyn, yeah, you missed the beginning of the video. That's okay. We were just introducing this shark, but today is basically just about learning basic shark anatomy. I have more detailed workshops inside my courses on the biology of each of the sharks I'm going to talk about. But we're just getting started here, just basically getting an easy side view of kind of a basic shark that's not too modified. And we're going to get those tiger stripes in later. And let me make sure I don't lose the eye here. And the mouth. And the nose. Okay, and then I can also make this a little bit faster by using a little blending stomp. So yeah, this is just meant to kind of inspire you about fun techniques you can use. And you might not have this stuff. They didn't tell you beforehand what to get, but it's just fun to blend this. And you can use this blender almost like a pencil. You see how I'm holding it. And we're going to want to actually lighten the belly a bit, probably. We're just trying to get some of this stuff. This is the part that takes the longest, but this is the part that's fun that really makes it look realistic. But it does take a while to make it look realistic. And it's a little bit harder to make it realistic when I'm talking. But yeah, anyway, I used to be terrified of swimming with sharks. And of course, I grew up during the era of the popularity of the movie Jaws, which did just have its 50th anniversary. And so a lot of people in my generation were scared of sharks. And there was a whole, movement to be afraid of them and to have shark hunting festivals and, to villainize them. And that was really bad because now a lot of them have been hunted to almost near extinction. And of course, they face other threats too, like habitat loss and being hit by boats and overfishing and all that. Okay, so then I can actually lighten up the belly a little bit. And you can see that he doesn't have much pigment here, or she. Actually, this is a she, sorry. I think I've been calling it a he, but I don't see any claspers, but anyway, so I'm just lightening that up. And then we can keep darkening. So we're trying to make it rounded, and we can try to show too. And these really look kind of like water reflections. Like Carolyn, if you saw the post by Chris in our club of water reflecting on these rocks, that's kind of like that. So you can go like that, and then you can also just emphasize his roundness more. And, I can also lighten a bit here. So I can draw with this eraser. This is an eraser shaped like a pencil. So you can kind of draw like with this too. Yeah. So if you have any questions, make sure to post them. Okay, so we want to get a little bit bolder here. So I'm just going to try to get my edges better here. Drawing with pencils is really an iterative process, meaning you're continuing to go back and forth. And yeah, I'm just trying to get his values closer because he is quite dark. And again, this is the one that I spent a lot more time on, so you can just see how he ends up. And I can also add some pen at the end. And then getting this shadow here of that end of his vertebral column and that little shelf there that's shadowed more underneath. And there's also probably a bit of a highlight on top of it. That's like this ridge or keel, just like a keel of a boat. It helps him to be stabilized again to the left and right. And you often see that in sharks that are fast swimmers, like this one. Carolyn, yeah, you need to make a value scale. And so you can just make one by hand. And, every medium you use is going to look a little bit different. So generally, you want to have some values in your drawings that kind of range. So some of them light, some of them dark. Oh yeah, right. We forgot the gills. We forgot his gills. So generally the gills are right above and in front of the pectoral fin. And like I said, most sharks have 5, although there are ones that have 6 or even 7. And that's so rare that those sharks are called 6 or 7 gilled sharks. So it's not really common. Now this part is coming straight towards us. It's the closest part of the shark. And so actually I could emphasize that if I want to with a pen and make that really sharp if I want. Really good, close and focus to make it look better. And I could also emphasize the eye and the mouth. Make it a little bit scarier looking. And oh yeah, some shadowing under here. Yeah, so make any comments you want in the chat. I can look at them occasionally. Yeah, anyway, I want to make this darker. Because again, this guy is like round, kind of like a banana almost. And I like having a brush. I have to be careful with these charcoal pencils, but I like to have a brush. Anyway, yeah, this tiger shark, again, they have a fearsome reputation, but I have seen videos of people swimming with them. So it's just kind of all about, how they feel during the day. I forgot. Where did I put it? I'm looking for my eraser. There we go. So yeah, these pens tend to smear, these pencils, but they are really fun for blending. And again, I can go back in here and continue to kind of darken things up and emphasize those lines. And that's why he's called a tiger shark, or the species is called a tiger shark, because they have these tiger-like stripes, especially when they're younger. You know, just like a deer. Right now, I've got lots of deer with their little fawns, the does and the fawns in my neighborhood. And you know how the fawns have all those stripes and spots. And lots of baby animals have that, like tapirs too. There's a really cute tapir that's at our local zoo, well, in Portland. And they also have stripes. Well, that's looking a bit better there. Right. So, and I could even take this charcoal pencil here, white charcoal pencil, and also add some emphasis. Kind of subtle, but I can kind of add a little bit more of those stripes. And they're just kind of random, like a tiger stripes. Let's see, there'd be a little highlight probably right here where the fin is coming out. Maybe highlight that. And I see there's a bit of a cast shadow under the fin. And it's showing a bit of a cast shadow going that way too. So it's good to know where your sun is coming from, to choose a direction, even if you can't see it very well. Especially in this photo, underwater photos, you know, often don't have a really good sense of where the sun is coming from. The highlights and shadows. Okay. So tell me in the chat box, live and replay viewers, if you have a favorite species of shark, if there's another one you'd like me to demonstrate this week. And so, yeah, we are this week celebrating Shark Week. That's been popularized by the Discover Channel and by National Geographic. And so we're trying to, you know, become more aware of sharks and not just purely scared of them, but understand their fascinating biology. Because again, many of them are endangered of extinction. Many species are hunted for just their fins. People will just cut off their fins for shark fin soup and just leave the rest of the carcass to rot. And there's over 100 million sharks a year that are killed partly for this purpose. So it's really important to, you know, become more aware that sharks have a lot more to fear from us than we have from them. Yeah, I think if the sun's coming from here, we're going to have more shadow on top of this than we do on the body right there, because the body is facing up towards the sun. So I could actually lighten this a little bit. So you can play around with this for a long time, getting it more realistic, because getting something this realistic with all of this shadowing takes a while. But I could also outline him with a pen for fun too. And just to firm up that outer edge, especially because these charcoal pencils smear, and that'll just give him a little bit more personality there. Just trying to be really subtle about it. So yeah, sharks live all over the world in warm waters, cool waters, in the tropics, near the equator, and near the poles. Different species live in different habitats, from deep, deep waters where they hardly ever come up to the sun, to sharks that are mainly in coral reefs, like the ones I've been lucky to swim with, like blacktip reef sharks, nurse sharks. They're really mellow. Um, and, some sharks that look really spooky, like hammerhead sharks, they are actually very mellow. I was really lucky to snorkel with them in the Galapagos Islands. At first, I was really scared, but I was with certified guides who assured me there was nothing to be worried about. And I looked at a few of them below us. They were swimming under us along the bottom of the coral reef. They were kind of bottom feeders, the hammerhead sharks. And I actually noticed one that had some big scratches on its top, as if it had been in a fight or maybe even hit by a boat. And I remember thinking, oh, poor shark. So yeah, let's see how that looks. Yeah, and I could just, I think I want to just emphasize more this white belly because it doesn't have any pigment there, and emphasize this ridge a bit more. And yeah, it's just when I look back and forth at what it looks like on the screen compared to me looking at it, I just want to keep working on him. And that's what can happen. You can just keep working on something. Right. Okay. How are we doing? How are we doing? Great. All right. Carolyn wants us to draw a hammerhead shark. Yeah, that's very cool. I love hammerhead sharks too. And like I said, I've snorkeled with them. And I actually have I think I have some photos in the references. So again, remember that you can click down below to download your 2-page handout of high resolution images of a variety of shark species so you can get more practice sketching them. I'm not sure how many I'll get to this week during Shark Week. It depends how popular these videos are. So if you've enjoyed this video, please copy and paste the link and send it to a friend. Especially kids, of course, are fascinated by sharks. And of course, they love drawing too. So I'd love it if you knew some kids or students that you could share this with. So yeah, where are we here? No, I can't ever figure out which one of these. There we go. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this first day of Shark Week and you learned a little bit about the basic anatomy of sharks and kind of variations on the theme. And we drew a shark, we drew a tiger shark, and we learned a bit about tiger sharks and where they live and what they eat and all that. And so I hope you enjoyed learning about sharks. And if you didn't follow along, I hope you'll get some pencil and paper and download the handout and maybe even try sketching with charcoal pencils like I did and finishing your shark. Yeah. So I got to go. Have a great day and I'll see you around. Bye.